Welcome back to the Thursday edition of Talk Back with Matt Dunn and Jim Leggett. Always a pleasure to catch up with the senior senator for our U.S. Senate here in the state of Louisiana, Senator Bill Cassidy. Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm great, gentlemen. How are y'all?
We are doing fine. Thank you for joining us this morning. You been all right, sir?
I am doing fantastic. The economy's humming. People are making more money. Jobs are expanding. When that happens, life's good when you're in Washington, D.C., representing Louisiana.
Just do us a favor and to keep flooding that swamp up there with Louisiana swamp, okay?
You know, it's interesting. Folks back home, we say that Trump's giving swamps a bad name.
Well, Senator, let's start off with the big news. I understand that you met with Supreme Court Justice nominee Brett Kavanaugh, I guess a week and a half ago now. Can you tell us a little bit more about him and how that meeting went and that discussion went?
He is a quality man. I was fortunate to be invited by the president when Brett Kavanaugh gave his opening remarks. And the motto at his high school was meant for others. And he has lived his life as if meant for others. Here he is a judge on the D.C. District Court, which is thought to be the second highest court after the Supreme Court. And he spends his weekends in a soup kitchen at St. Vincent de Paul. He coaches the children's soccer team. He's just a man who, again, lives his life for others. And he's an incredible jurist. Liberal judges have said he should be approved because he's so high quality. He'll make a great Supreme Court justice.
Wow, that's incredible. When exactly do those confirmation hearings, I guess, look like they'll begin?
The confirmation hearings will probably begin in September. October. He's got a million pages of writing, and so folks want to review that beforehand. But those million pages of writing are going to reflect a fellow who believes in the Constitution, who thinks that the legislature and the executive branch should be those who actually make the decision as to what the laws are, but rather the court merely interprets. Shouldn't say merely, but the court is who interprets. And so we can, and I can tell you the vote will take place before November the 6th.
Okay.
That is election day.
I guess that's a very good thing. We're talking to Senator Bill Cassidy, of course, our senior senator here for the state of Louisiana.
What about early voters? They're out, I guess.
Well, no, the point is that there are senators like Joe Manchin in West Virginia. Now, President Trump is incredibly popular in West Virginia. And Brett Kavanaugh is a first-class jurist. Chuck Schumer, the Democratic minority leader in the Senate, wants all his Democratic senators to vote against Brett Kavanaugh for no other reason than that Brett Kavanaugh is Donald Trump's nominee. So does Joe Manchin vote with the folks he represents in West Virginia, or does he vote with Chuck Schumer from New York? And I think the vote will take place before November the 6th, so that folks can know how someone like Joe Manchin is going to vote.
That's very good. We were talking with Senator Bill Cassidy. Senator, we had on yesterday the Chancellor of the Central Louisiana Technical and Community College. I know that this is such a passionate thing that you work on. Can you talk about your successful effort to include provisions in the Strengthening Career and Technical Education for the 21st Century Act to encourage coding and prevent Louisiana funding cuts for education?
Yeah, two things. One, we were going to get cut by 20%, the amount of money coming for our folks to learn technical skills. And this is how folks get better jobs, better benefits, keep on moving up the ladder. And we're going to get cut? No way. We're not going to agree to that. So we fought off those cuts so the state will still receive the same amount of money so that our folks, again, learn those skills to get them a better job and a better benefit. Next, we got to start preparing our children for the next generation jobs. So our Coding Act would encourage states to allow, among other things, would encourage them to allow a computer language to qualify for a foreign language requirement in your high school. So instead of learning French, which no one speaks French when they're 50, they might learn how to write macros for Excel, the spreadsheet program, or they might learn how to code with Python, or any of these other languages that are the jobs of the future. It came to mind because there was an article, roughneck jobs are fewer than they used to be because oil companies are using somebody sitting behind a computer screen, sending fiber optic cables down a well bore to decide what to do as opposed to the roughneck doing it. We need to prepare people for the jobs of the future.
Yeah, no, it's certainly, and that's the thing, and this is why I love that you're working on this and have been working on this. That's the thing. So many people, and it's not that we encourage, and the head of, the chancellor of CLTCC said this yesterday, if you want to go and get a traditional, 4-year bachelor's degree, by all means go and do it. But if you are looking for a job that can get you essentially a training while in school to get, essentially a job right after you get out of school, and you want to get in the technical field, this is the route to go. So it's great. But moving on, sir, the news last week that U.S. workers have received their biggest pay and benefit increase in 10 years. You have been a champion of the economy and how it sits right now. You're a very smart man. You're a numbers guy. Talk about this.
Yeah. Since President Trump has become president, the economy has taken off. Our gross domestic product grew at 4.1% last quarter. It's estimated to grow at over 3% this year. We were being told 2 years ago that forever after, our economy would only grow at 2%. That makes a huge difference. It translates into jobs. Unemployment is at record lows for veterans, for Hispanics, for African Americans, record low. Women are doing great in the job force. Folks are getting off of disability back into the job market. And as you mentioned, wages are growing, but inflation is stable.
Is 3% a likable goal or a workable goal? I know 4.1 is really not possible to sustain, but what about 3%? Is the economy going to go on at that?
The economists are estimating that it will continue at over 3% for this year.
Right.
Now, in the out years, what happens? We've got some potential clouds on the horizon. The Fed wants to increase the interest rates. We may have a trade war with China. On the other hand, I think our economy is fairly resilient, and the Republican agenda of cutting regulations and lowering taxes has incentivized business to invest, which in turn drives more jobs, which in turn increases wages.
Well, you're talking about a trade war. Isn't the best way to win a war is not to have one?
It is, but China is quite willing to steal all of our intellectual property and to poach all of our industries in a way which really violates international norms. And you go to the World Trade Organization, it takes you 3 years to work through, and in the meantime, China has another scheme. It's not just we that recognize it. The Europeans and others recognize it. So I do think there has to be a confrontation with China over this. I would rather that there not be a confrontation with Canada and Mexico or with Europe, and I do think the president will make deals with those, the EU, Canada, and with Mexico.
One final one for you, Senator, and once again, we appreciate your time here. One of the things that you've also been so passionate about and worked hard on, especially over the last 2 years now, has been the National Flood Insurance Program, as it's been renewed now for the next 4 months. Please tell us a little bit about this.
Yeah, National Flood Insurance Program, if you don't have it and you live in Louisiana, quite likely you should. We've had so many floods over the last few years, so it was at risk of lapsing. The folks were perhaps scheduled to close on a house, but they wouldn't have been able to close on a house because it's required to have this flood insurance. Steve Scalise did a great job of teeing up a 4-month extension through hurricane season to allow us to work on a reform package. Some of my Senate colleagues want reform, and they were going to block renewing for 4 months just to make a statement. I said, stop. You're hurting that family buying their first home who can't close because this is a requirement of federal law. Don't stop. Don't hurt that family. I have a package up there I've worked with a senator from New York on, Kirsten Gillibrand, that will reform it, that will make it more affordable, more sustainable, more accountable. But give us these 4 months to work on that, but don't hurt that family in the meantime. And my senators agreed with me. They signed off on allowing the renewal to go through on time, and now we got 4 months to finish the job.
Well, Senator, we really appreciate your time and look forward to catching up with you next month. Keep fighting the good fight up there, sir.
Hey, thank you, gentlemen, for having me.
Absolutely. That was Senator Bill Cassidy, and we'll be right back.